Thank you. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Vihari A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtadharashatashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. To Govardhan Dham Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanidhi. Are schools still in now because of Thanksgiving, or is no school today? No school today. And no work today. They gave you the time off. 5? Starting when? Not today. Okay, Thanksgiving break. That's good. So today is a very special day, special occasion. So before we read the Bhagavatam verse, we may not get to the Bhagavatam verse today, probably, but we'll just meditate and read and discuss this particular celebration of today, which is Odana Shashti. It's a celebration of Lord Jagannath. Om Ganatipidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamidithamena Tasma Shigraveda Mahamukam Garidivachalam Pangamalanga Tegadiva Kipatamaham Bande Shigurundinitaranam Bancha Kabadribishcha Kipasanabeva Chapaditanam Pavanebio Vaishnavebio Lamanamaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, if you could just please repeat after me. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All right. So we will read from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya-līlā. The Lord attempts to go to Vrindavan, chapter 16. Read text 78. So Madhya 1678. Gadadhara Pandite Tenhar Puṇḍarīka Odana Shashtira Dina Yatraye Dikila. Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi initiated Gadadhar Pandit for the second time, and on the day of Odana Shashti, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi saw the festival. So Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, we hear of him in the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. There's a few places where he comes up in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta and the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And he is described as someone who doesn't look like a devotee externally speaking, in terms of the particular opulence that he would flaunt, if you want to say that. His clothes, very high dollar, the most high type of clothing, all types of silk and fancy jewelry and so on. And externally, he looked like a materialistic person, like a sense enjoyer. He was being fanned by people and served by people and chewing pan. That's the stuff where we devotees usually don't chew. It's like a mild form of intoxicant. So there's a case where Mukunda brought Gadadhar and he said, I will show you a very wonderful Vaishnav today. So then they walk in and Mukunda in his mind, or Gadadhar in his mind, he's thinking, how is this person Vaishnav? It's like, this person doesn't look like a Vaishnav to me. So then, Mukunda, he understanding the mind of Gadadhar, he chants a verse, which, Aho Baki Yam Stanakala Kutam, a verse which is describing how merciful Krishna is. One cannot be more merciful than Krishna. That he liberated a she-demon who came to kill him, Putana. And then hearing that, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, he just went into like a ecstatic, what would you call it? Ecstatic fit. And that he was just throwing his jewelry off and just thrashing everything, because he was in so much ecstasy thinking about how merciful Krishna was. It said that, I believe it was something like 7 to 10 men couldn't hold him down. And eventually he just went passed out in ecstasy. He was just there. It said he was in a trance for like 7 hours. So then eventually Gadadhar Pandit, he understood that that this Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi is such a wonderful devotee, such a pure devotee, and I committed this offense to him. I was thinking in my mind something. So then he accepted initiation. So we hear that about Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. So here, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, he is seeing the Odana Shashti festival, this festival of Lord Jagannath. And then Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. At the beginning of winter, there's a ceremony known as Odana Shashti. This ceremony indicates that from that day forward, a winter covering should be given to Lord Jagannath. That covering is directly purchased from a weaver. According to Archan Marg, a cloth should first be washed to remove all the starch, and then it can be used to cover the Lord. Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi saw that the priest neglected to wash the cloth before covering Lord Jagannath. Since he wanted to find some fault in the devotees, he became indignant. So this is text 79. When Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi saw that Lord Jagannath was given a starched garment, he became a little hateful. In this way, his mind was polluted. So he was thinking, how is it that these pujaris are giving Lord Jagannath this starched cloth, which is considered impure? It has to be washed first. How is it that they're doing this? And it says in his mind he became a little hateful. There's some disturbance in his mind seeing the behavior of the pujaris of Jagannath. Has anyone ever felt a little hateful towards devotees? No? Okay. That's good. Maybe we're feeling a little hateful right now towards somebody. Maybe yesterday. Maybe feeling a little hateful towards me. I hope not. But sometimes that is there. We may feel a little hateful towards someone or not liking someone. But as we'll hear later, we have to be careful about that. Sometimes we may also think people are a little hateful towards us. Maybe we think, oh, someone doesn't like us, someone has some problem with us. We may have these different thoughts. They don't like me, they don't love me, they don't want. Maybe they would think it'd be better if I wasn't around. Whatever it is, we have some thoughts like that. We may have some thoughts like that. But yeah, we have to be careful in relation to that, because how are we to know? Krishna is omniscient. Everybody knows what that means. Omniscient means he knows everything. I was looking up the antonym or the opposite for omniscient, and certain words came up. Ignorant, this, that. One of the antonyms that came up for omniscient, which I thought was amusing, was dumb as a bag of rocks, or dumb as a bag of hammers. I especially found the one amusing, dumb as a bag of rocks. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, you have omniscient, all-knowing, and then the antonym of that is dumb as a bag of rocks. Well, I don't exactly think so. I mean, just because you're not all-knowing doesn't mean you're as dumb as a bag of rocks. I was hearing a lecture recently by Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, and some person, it was in the temple, and the person said, yeah, I'm sorry if this sounds like a stupid question. And then Prabhupada said, he was laughing. It was joking, but he said, yes. He said, we must ask stupid questions. Because we're stupid, we must ask stupid questions. Prabhupada was laughing. I mean, the question was kind of, he was asking about the lotus and the mind and this and that. And Prabhupada said, we're not concerned with this lotus and the mind, and we're concerned with Krishna. So. But just because someone is not all-knowing, personality of Godhead, omniscient, I mean, we should remember that, because, yeah, I mean, we're not all-knowing. It is very difficult to understand, like we were reading the other day, to understand the mind of a pure devotee, of a devotee that Srila Prabhupada explains that. It's very difficult. The Chaitanya-caritāmṛta explains that when we were discussing the other day about Rupa Kaviraj and Krishna Priya Thakurani. He couldn't understand the mind of Krishna Priya Thakurani, and then he made all these offenses. So we have to be careful, and because we're not omniscient, all-knowing, doesn't mean we're as dumb as a bag of rocks. Okay, I understand that, but still, we should be humble and modest in our perception of ourselves, and think, yeah, I don't know. I cannot know what is, and how am I to know what's in someone's mind? Of course, there's indications, this and that. Therefore, we need communication with each other. So, in this way, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, he became a little hateful towards the servants of Lord Jagannath. What are they doing? They shouldn't do this. So then, what happened? That night, the brothers, I guess Subhadra stepped out of this one. She let the brothers take care of things, but that night the brothers, Lord Jagannath and Balaram, came to Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi and smiling began to slap him. Although so it explains that his face was swollen, his face were swollen due to this slap, and Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi was very happy. This incident has been elaborately described by Thakur Vrindavan Das. So we'll just take a look at the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Vrindavan Das Thakur in relation to this Udana Shashti. This is at the very end of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Kanda, chapter 10. It's the very last chapter. So he closes the chapter, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi closes the whole Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. But here, so we'll just read a few verses. In the form of the deity, the Lord sat on the throne, and in the form of a sannyasi, he practiced devotional service. So Jagannath is on the throne, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is practicing devotional service. The form of a sannyasi. Fine white, yellow, and blue silk cloths decorated with pearls and gold were offered to the deity form of the Lord. After Lord Jagannath was dressed, he was decorated with flower ornaments, flower bangles, a flower crown, and flower garlands. Jagannath was then worshipped with 16 items, sandalwood pulp, flowers, incense, and ghee lamps. He was then offered various types of foodstuffs. So Sankarshan had the wonderful opportunity of taking care of Jagannath Swami this morning. Everybody else didn't have the opportunity to see him, besides this man right here. Fortunate man. Fortunate soul. Daita. After the Lord saw this festival in the company of all his associates, he returned to his residence, absorbed in ecstatic love. So Lord Chaitanya would observe these festivals. So it's so important to observe festivals, so many festivals, to remain enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness. All the devotees left for their respective residence except Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, who remained with Srup Damodar. So Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi and Srup Damodar, they stayed around, they stayed back. And what were they going to do? They started talking about the festival. They would both disclose their minds to each other without hesitation. So Srup Damodar and Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, they were great friends, and they would disclose their minds. This is also an important thing in devotional service. Unfortunately, sometimes friends are lacking in Krishna consciousness, which produces a lot of problems. So one should have friends, and they should disclose their minds freely, without hesitation. So this is what they were doing, Srup Damodar and Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. They're talking with each other. After seeing Lord Jagannath wearing starched cloth, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi developed some doubt. He asked Srup Damodar, "Why do they offer starched dress to Lord Jagannath? The Shrutis and Smritis are widely accepted in this place, so why is starched cloth offered before it was washed?" Srup Damodar replied, "Please listen, there is no fault in this, because that is the custom of this place. Persons who know the Shrutis and Smritis may not observe this festival, but here It has always been observed in this way. If this was not the desire of Lord Jagannath, then why hasn't the king stopped it? Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi said, "The Lord may do as he likes, but why do the servants imitate the activities of the Lord? Why do the priests, the pujaris, the temple superintendents, and the servants touch the unwashed cloths or clothes? Lord Jagannath is a supreme controller. For him, everything is possible. But how can others imitate his activities? If one touches starched cloth, he should wash his hands to purify himself. Why don't such learned persons follow this injunction?" So in this way he was, as it says in Chaitanya-caritāmṛta, he developed some hateful mood in his mind towards the servants of Jagannath. Why are they doing this? This is wrong. So then Srup Damodar explains how he doesn't think it's wrong. Anyways, I'll read the next few verses. Srup Damodar replied, "Please listen, my dear brother. I think there's no fault in this Odana festival. The Supreme Brahman has incarnated as the deity of Lord Jagannath. Therefore, rules and regulations do not apply to him." So, generally speaking, that's the thing. It's impure cloth. You don't wear it if it's starched. You have to wash it first. But Srup Damodar is saying, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't have to do that. That's what he's saying. Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi said, "Please listen, brother. The deity of Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Brahman in all respects. He is not at fault, even if he violates the rules and regulations. But have all these others become Brahman by staying in Nilachala? So have the servants become so advanced that they can just forego all the rules and regulations they don't have to follow? Have they become Brahman? They have given up proper etiquette and have become like incarnations of the Supreme Brahman." They're acting as if they were God. This is what Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi is saying. While speaking in this way, they laughed again and again as they walked down the road. So they started to laugh about it. The two held each other's hands and laughed as they discussed whether Lord Jagannath's servants were at fault. So I guess this hand-holding in India is a long-time tradition, huh? Because the men, I think they still do it. They still do that? You saw it recently? Yeah. So the men in India, like widespread, just friends, good friends, they walk around holding each other's hands. So you have this Srup Damodar. Huh? Well, I don't know about that, but anyway. No one can understand the glories of the Lord's servants. Only Krishna knows their attachment for him. Krishna sometimes bewilders his devotee, and then feeling compassion for him, he destroys his illusion. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the purport, he says that although Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi was a great devotee, when he enacted the pastime of finding fault in the devotees of Lord Jagannath, the affectionate Supreme Lord performed one pastime to destroy his stage delusion. So it's a pastime. But then to destroy this illusion in his mind, we go further. First, the Lord bewildered Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. Now you will hear how the Lord destroyed his illusion. In this way, the two intimate friends went to their residences to perform their Krishna-conscious duties. After taking their meals, they went to Gauranga's residence for some time. Then they returned to their residence and took rest. In his form as Lord Jagannath, the omniscient Lord Chaitanya appeared before Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi in a dream. Vidyānidhi Mahashaya saw Lord Jagannath appear before him in his dream. All right, so now he's resting. He went back. He had some prasadam. He saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's resting. Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi's resting. And then who appears in his dream? Krishna, Jagannath and Baladev. They appear in his dream. And they're not happy. Vidyānidhi saw Lord Jagannath catch hold of him and slap his face in an angry mood. So he catched him and he just... The two brothers, Jagannath and Balaram, slapped him on his face so hard that his swollen face bore impressions of their fingers. So It was yeah. Okay. Feeling distress, Vidyānidhi fell at their feet and prayed, Krishna, save me. Forgive my offenses. Oh Lord, for what offense are you beating me? So then he was thinking, why are you beating me? The Lord replied, there was no end to your offenses. I do not belong to any caste, and my servants also do not belong to any caste. You should have learned this while staying here. So he's saying this while he's... Why then are you staying in a place where you will lose your caste? If you want to protect your caste, you better go home. I have inaugurated the traditional observance of this festival. How then can you think that there's an improper behavior in it? You accept me as the supreme Brahman, but you offend my servants by finding fault, and they're dressing me with starched cloth. Vidyānidhi felt great fear. So he's feeling, you could make sense. He was feeling fear. He therefore placed his head at the lotus feet of the Lord and cried, please forgive the offenses of this most sinful person. I am defeated. I apologize. O Lord, with this mouth I have laughed at your servants. So you have now properly punished. That mouth. This is the auspicious beginning of a new day, for my face and forehead were touched by your lotus hand. The Lord replied, I have punished you to bestow mercy on you, for I consider you my servant. In this way, the two brothers Jagannath and Balaram mercifully glanced on Premanidhi. So Premanidhi is another name for Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. So Nidhi is like ocean, or prema, full of prema. Mercifully glanced on Premanidhi in his dream and then returned to their temple. After seeing this dream, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi woke up. Then he saw slap marks on his face and he began to laugh. His face was so swollen from the slapping of the lotus hands of the Supreme Lord. Seeing this, Premanidhi said, this is very good. I have received punishment for my offense, yet the Lord has mercifully awarded me only a token punishment. Just see the glories of Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. This is the limit of the Lord's mercy on his devotees. The Lord did not slap even his own son Pradyumna to teach him in this way. The Lord's associates and consorts like Janaki and Rukmini and Satyabhama, as well as the various gods and goddesses, are directly punished if they commit an offense, but to receive the Lord's mercy by being punished in a dream is rarely seen. So, yeah, continues, and let's see here. I'm wondering where that... Oh, okay, there it is. All right, so he got up in the morning, and then Srup Damodar, his friend, he looked at him and goes, what happened? Because, he woke up and his face is all swollen. Jagannath Baladev were... And said they would see each other every day. And they would go to see Lord Jagannath every day. When Srup Damodar came, as he did regularly, began to speak to Vidyānidhi. Every morning you come with me to see Jagannath. Why haven't you gotten up yet today? Vidyānidhi replied, oh brother, please come and sit down and I'll explain everything. When Srup Damodar came near, he saw that Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi's face was swollen and there was marks on it. Srup Damodar asked him, what is this? Why is your face swollen? Did you get hurt? Puṇḍarīka smiled and said, please listen, brother, all my doubts were vanquished last night. Because he was doubting. He was doubting the Odana Shashti festival, so he said, all my doubts are gone now. That's funny. Look at my face and see the evidence of the punishment I received because of criticizing the offering of starched clothes to Lord Jagannath. Last night, Lord Jagannath and Balaram appeared before me in a dream and continuously slapped me for 2 dandas. Does anyone remember how long 2 dandas is? We're not talking about 2 sannyas dandas. The time, does anyone remember? 2 dandas? I don't blame anybody for not remembering that, but 2 dandas, so we'll tell you here. About 48 minutes. So they both slapped my face while saying, "You have criticized the clothes we wear. Seeing the marks of the fingers on my face, I was unable to pacify them. I am too embarrassed to speak to anyone. I will go out only after my face becomes normal." So this is an important lesson too, that if we have some special mercy from Krishna, some special, whether that's in the daydream or the night dream, some type of special mercy we get from Krishna. That's our hope. That's what we want, right? The special mercy. So if we somehow or other do get that special mercy, then we don't just go out and it's like, all right, let me tell the world this right now, or something. Get the phone out and start telling you the wonderful transcendental mercy, but it's kept within one's consciousness. This is Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. He could have went out and told everybody, "Hey, look at everybody. This is what Jagannath Baladev Subhadra in a dream," but he was very reserved about that. He didn't want to go out. He told his close friend Srup Damodar. So that's something also. All right, let's see. And then they floated in an the Lord appeared in a dream and personally punished you. I have never before heard of such a thing, but I can directly see that you have been punished. In this way, the 2 friends floated in happiness and forgot whether it was day or night as they continued to enjoy topics of Krishna. So they just spent time with each other, relishing Krishna consciousness and their complete ecstasy. And then the chapter ends by Vrindavan Das Thakur saying how this is the influence of Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, that Lord Chaitanya himself would address him as his father, because Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi was incarnation of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, Srimati Radharani's father. And then it describes some of his characteristics. He would not bathe in the Ganga in fear of touching the Ganga with his feet. He would simply take darshan and then drink a little bit of the Ganga. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains in the purport that there's different devotees. Some devotees do that, some don't. But this was Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi's particular mood. So in other words, it's not wrong to bathe in the Ganga, but this was his mood personally. So going on, Lord Chaitanya would cry out profusely the name of this devotee, "O Father, Puṇḍarīka." So this was his relationship with Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi. And Vrindavan Das says, whoever hears the characteristics of Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi will certainly achieve the lotus feet of Krishna. So yes, it's a wonderful festival, Odana Shashti, celebration of Lord Jagannath, and there's so many things to learn from this particular festival and Puṇḍarīka. It's interesting because Puṇḍarīka Gadadhar was feeling some doubts about Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, and is this person really a devotee? It was that jumping to conclusions tendency, or thinking that we know. And then similarly, going further, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi himself had some case where he was jumping to conclusion and thinking, oh, what's going on with these servants of Lord Jagannath and why are they doing this? It's a similar dynamic going on, that principle of that. So, yes, we're not omniscient, and we're not as dumb as a bag of rocks. That's not a really good antonym, but because they're quite different. But yeah, we're not omniscient, but we should see ourselves the perception of ourselves should be very humble and modest, and that we have to be careful that we are not thinking we know what's going on in people's minds, therefore there's a communication and Vaishnava relationships based on that clear communication. So anyways, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Does anybody have any? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
With Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, what level was he on? What level was he on? It's clearly said. What did you say that?
In terms of his advancement?
When Gadadhar was introduced to him, what level of advancement was he?
Oh, well, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi is, topmost level.
Like Prema or below Prema?
Yeah, definitely Prema.
So then, the only way of understanding that, because this pastime happens after that, so that someone on Prema could make such a mistake and criticize, like harshly criticize, that was explained as only a matter of the Lord's arrangement, nothing. There's no possibility for. Now, even on Bhava, is that possible for someone to make such harsh statements inaccurately, like incorrectly? Not. Is that even compatible, or is it?
Well, I mean, with this Prema, it said, as I was reading, that the Lord created it and then He destroyed the illusion. So, with Bhava, is it possible to inaccurately judge something? That's what you're saying.
Or that one would, I guess harsh, not necessarily be lacking omniscience, but to wrongly criticize harshly, because this seems like that's beyond just not knowing. But maybe not. I can't really put my finger on that exactly, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about harsh, like if someone's on the level of Bhava, as we were meditating the other day on different types of hearts, so their heart is very soft, and it says like butter, melted butter or honey. I was in the kitchen the other day and I had a little bottle of honey, and I was thinking about that, looking at the honey. But so this like kind of undue harshness, or kind of, it might seem like very unreasonable harshness. It's not. If there is any seemingly harshness, it's coming from the platform that they really want to help people. They want to help the individual. They want to help whoever they're criticizing. It's not just like harshness. It's like, wow, this is like really unreasonable. This, first of all, might be wrong, and it just seems like it's coming from like a really, not a nice place, like envious, for example, like an envious place. That being said, you still have this idea of bhava, even though it's a very high level of Krishna consciousness, and it's always a good thing to remember, actually, that it's not a clear memory in my mind of Srila Prabhupada bringing it up in Nectar of Devotion. Maybe he does. It's not a clear memory, but somehow it's a clear memory in my mind of Rupa Goswami, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explaining someone on the level of bhava is compared to like a moon that still has spots, that there's some residual, there could still be some residual faults there, which is quite interesting. You think, wow, that's like a really high level of bhava. I mean, it's like preliminary stage of love of God. So, yeah, there could be something like that.
One other question I have is with, again,
is that like...
Yeah. With Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, and maybe it's just something I'm never going to quite understand, but...
Why was he dressed like that?
Yeah, well, so you can kind of, it's a little conceivable when some people, well, there's some answer some devotees give, which
Preaching
is that...
tactic.
Not even that, but that they would say, well, so why was Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi in that position if he's a devotee at all, to speak of on Prema? And so one explanation is, well, he wasn't attached to it. He's inherited that. He was Zamindar. He just inherited it, that position, So naturally, now that still doesn't fully cover it, fully satisfy you, because just because you inherit something doesn't mean you need to stick to it. Now, but then you could say, and Srila Prabhupada does talk about, okay, different people, they may grow up in different standards of living, and so they may naturally then, even as devotees, live at different standards of living, and you talk about Americans like that, that he didn't expect his American, well, maybe I should use my words carefully, but something like he didn't expect his he expected his American disciples to still live at a standard of living which was not so far from the standard of living they grew up in, even though they could make a point that, hey, the devotees in this part of the world live a much simpler standard of living, so therefore we should too. He seemed to accept that. But then, so there's already that kind of, that complexity, but that question. But then also, when it comes to Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, chewing pan, so you think, well, why? And now you can think of, well, even Krishna himself, or Balaram, Balaram himself.
Varuni.
Yeah. So there's something, I think that's kind of conceivable, that, someone, that what's the problem with intoxication? It brings out your vices, it lowers your inhibitions, and...
one thing is that this is offered to Krishna regularly, this pan.
Yeah. So just like we can say that pan can be accepted by Christians, it doesn't really seem to be a problem philosophically or any reason. But so we could still say, okay, someone on prema also. But then it does seem to be complicated beyond that, because even acharyas can take intoxication, it seems. So like, and maybe this should be behind the paywall of like not like meaning like off the mic and like not for the online audience, but discussing right. like an acharya could use acharya could smoke cannabis. An acharya could chew tobacco. An acharya could drink alcohol for certain purposes. Like medicinal purposes. And typically, even though anyone could do those things, but most people are especially instructed to avoid those things because they would be attached to them, or because the effect on their consciousness and so on, the way it would affect their inhibitions and so on. But for those who are not in danger, at least relatively speaking, what to speak of, yes, they are not. They could actually use those things. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes devotees quote like Vamsidas Babaji or something, and how there's some idea that he smoked ganja, but I read that book and I don't remember that there. So, but practically you see within the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, you don't see any acharyas practically doing that. It's especially, I mean, so...
But there are Vaishnavas who take pharmaceuticals for depression. And so it seems like one line of reason could be that, well, if you need to take something for depression or anxiety, anxiety would be whatever, something. Then if you can take a pharmaceutical,
taking the snuff,
Yeah, so that's what I was going to talk about. But so you can, and it's not like these pharmaceuticals don't affect, don't affect things the way ganja would. So.
Yeah, it seems like for medicinal purposes, sometimes devotees may do things like that. That's true. But the question is whether it's a medicinal purpose or whether it's some other purpose. As Bhakti Tirtha Swami, I think maybe he came up with it, but I don't know, maybe somebody else came up. At least he quoted it. He said, sometimes when the devotees say that, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am the healing herb. And we know what he's talking about there, the healing herb, right? So, but if somebody is really doing something for medicinal purpose because they really need it to, they may need it to function certain medicinal purposes, and that's another thing. I mean, are there cases of Srila Prabhupada saying that generally, which is a big confusion in the world, people have all this tulsi tea and all this tulsi, which Prabhupada really didn't like that. You don't take tulsi for your own benefit. But is there cases where Prabhupada says in his letters where you can? I thought there were some cases like that, some exceptions. Maybe there's not, so don't quote me on that one. But at least... we do see that sometimes there's some exceptions with certain things that we may not usually take. So, but in terms of Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi and his opulence, and because it was as far as that, because I was just trying to remember in my mind, I really don't think it goes into the background of how or why he's like that and how he got to that. It just, Mukunda and Gadadhar appear on the scene, and Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi is there. It doesn't explain exactly. So, I mean, sometimes you have certain cases where, like Nityananda Prabhu, for example, Avadut, he just does things that are like, you know, that we can't. It doesn't, like Lord Chaitanya was a perfect sannyasi and following all the rules and regulation and all the etiquette and everything, but Nityananda Prabhu was avadut, and he was just doing things in his own way. So who knows? I mean, I don't know, Puṇḍarīka Vidyānidhi, he was disguising himself so he wasn't bothered by the mass population, because if he was seeing himself, just like Gorkashordas Babaji, he would hide in the latrine and things like that so people wouldn't bother him. I mean, so under the disguise, I mean, I don't know. That's just, I mean, there's no background, so I can't say like absolutely or something. But whether it's avadut behavior, him disguising himself to stay away from materialistic people or something, sure. But the background isn't there. Yeah.
Well, if people ask things like, can you do this? Can you eat this? Can you take this medicine if it has alcohol in it? And so on. And then yeah, of course the example which would be hard for a lot of people is that Srila Prabhupada chewed tobacco. You know, that if you try to explain that, then it's going to get a lot of people into trouble. You know, but because they're on the platform of can I do this as opposed to should I do this. But if you really change the framework to should I do this, it really all works out. But when it's still like can I can I eat garlic? Yeah, I'm not gonna say you can't. You know, is there a place for it? Yeah, but should you? There are many cases where you could, but there are far fewer when you should. Where like it really makes sense. Like you really should eat garlic in this case. You know, there are illnesses when you could, and it may have some effect and so on. But where it really like outweighs, where like the benefits really outweigh the disadvantages. You know, really few. You know, so should you? There's going to be small cases. Can you? Like so many cases where it's like debatable.
Yeah. I mean, the general thing for a person engaged in sadhana bhakti, and practically, if you want to say, even if they're on higher levels for the purpose of teaching, the general thing is just to be as strict as possible, which means very strict with all of these different things. Because one, for the purpose of teaching, and one, it's always good to err on the side of being careful, not on the err on the side. It's like, all right, well, it's because that could, as we've seen, that could spiral down into some very unfortunate circumstances. So I could drink a little wine to help my heart or whatever, especially when it's special occasions with my family or something. They're all doing it. They're pushing me to do it. What's a little glass of wine? It's practically like grape juice, right? But it could spiral down, and then the person's just find themselves in just like real Maya, like.
Well,
yes.
I don't remember too many details about it, but at a certain point, Prabhupada was taking all kinds of things, 77 for his ailments, and you have tinctures or you have herbs that are drawn out of the herb, and it's an alcohol, the Ayurveda and stuff like that. And it was understood, he's taking that, and so there was one sannyasi who said, well, okay, I can do that too, because he also had some.
Okay.
But he got into it, and he was always taking the herb, and it became a problem for him just because of the alcohol.
Yeah.
It's as I think the best thing that you said is, can I or should I? If it's a can I, then it means that, well, this is in the realm of my sense gratification, but is it completely verboten? So you're treading on thin ice when you get into that. If you actually need something, it's prescribed by a doctor. It happens to be a tincture. Yeah. Okay, you take it. A few drops. It's not. It's for a medical thing. Just like on Ekadashi. If you take a medicine that happens to be a pill, I always make sure that the capsules are not gelatin, but they're made of some grain thing. Well, okay, it's not breaking because it's necessary for your health. But you have to minimize stuff like that and don't get into it and let it go into the boundary of your transgression.
Didn't that devotee also have a history with alcohol, or am I mistaken? That one who's...
Maybe. I forgot the detail, but I remember something that happened.
I don't remember. Oh. Yeah, I remember this devotee. He was initiated devotee, his brother. I think he was close to initiation. But he had in terms of his business, his work life, he had a tendency to mix with this person, mix with, selling paintings, mix. And then they would offer him wine sometimes. And he was thinking, hey, I'm trying to make some sales here, they'll think, this and that. And he just kind of got into that as a devotee. And then there was some non-devotee girl there, this kind of part, or some attract, and then he became attracted, and then fast forward like 20 years later, he just lost his Krishna consciousness and got really entangled in this materialistic family life, and just from a little small kind of, So yeah, you just have to be careful of that type of stuff, and yeah.
So one last thing.
I mean, don't mean to end on some like sad note or something, but.
Well, here we'll end on a kind of a funny note. It's also maybe kind of sad, but there's, I sometimes am unsatisfied with the way that we speak about intoxication and meat eating because it seems so imprecise. Like we will condemn meat eating with such absolute language that doesn't really fit our own shastra, and not just because like when you're like dying, like, so you're stuck in a desert, like technically speaking, not only could you eat meat, like should you eat meat? And the answer would be yeah, actually. The human life, the potential of human life is actually so valuable that it's actually worth even killing an animal for it and eating its flesh, to sustain your human life if absolutely necessary. So not only that, but then when it comes to like parts of like Shastra of like Kshatriya culture and hunting and so on, like sometimes the way we condemn hunting and meat eating in the modern world, of course a lot of it, anyway, there are certain ways where it's imprecise. I won't say more. And then same thing with intoxication also, the way we may, like, the devotees may condemn someone who's using cannabis even like medicinally or and I'm not pro at all, but, or just, the way we'll condemn alcohol or garlic, different things, It just seems like it's imprecise, However, and I think, okay, well, if you were to make it precise, then you would, you'd make it that unless, you at least add at the very least like an unless really necessary or something like that. But as soon as you nuance it like that, then it gets so many people into trouble. You know? And it's just amazing how much trouble people get because of they're on that platform. They just want a box. Is it okay? Is it not okay? And if there's any place where it's okay, then it's okay.
Exactly.
And it's amazing how people can't just can't stop getting themselves into trouble if you give them any nuance to it. And so therefore, the only thing you can do so they don't wreck themselves is give like a totally non-nuanced absolute statement as if like you're an absolute, like there's no place whatsoever, you're an absolute idiot if you ever consider that there might be a place for this, But one example was one devotee was giving initiation ceremony. I've told you this before, but I was really amazed. It was like 2021, 2022, and he was
give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
Yeah. So one person was giving initiation online, and so live streamed it. It was on Zoom, live streamed it to YouTube, and it was clear that the person giving the initiation was making a point. Yeah, because he was making a point that he thinks that the very strict formal guru-disciple relationship that's common in ISKCON is not doing us any favors when it gets to really, connecting with people and getting new initiates and helping them in their spiritual lives. So this particular guru is really trying to make it a very informal thing. So first of all, an informal relationship between the guru and disciple. But then also, when it comes to the four regular principles, like being very, not very absolute about it. Like, and chanting 16 rounds. Yeah, chant 16 rounds. There may be some cases when you can't chant 16 rounds. Try to make it up the next day. But everything is very... not black and white at all, and even eating, and then so the disciples saying, so like you mentioned before, like onions and garlic, we should try to avoid, but sometimes it's not easy to avoid. Maybe you're working somewhere, and so there's this disciple leading up to initiation, saying, so I just wanted to discuss a little, so regarding meat eating, some things, onion garlic, some things. And the Guru's trying to be, keep up his informal mood, kind of, liberal mood. But then the disciple, as he's asking his clarification questions for initiation, he's going pretty far. He's like, yeah, so like when it comes to intoxication, right? Like, am I going to go get drunk? No. Should I, what do I buy alcohol? No. But like, would there be some place, let's say I want to marry a girl from an Asian country, and like part of the culture is to win her kind of the respect of her father, you need to kind of first drink him under the table. There may be some cases where just in my life, practically speaking, I may need to temporarily for, a social thing or, drink. And the Guru's like, well, I mean, do you need to marry a girl like that if that's what it takes? So he's trying so hard to be informal, trying so hard to not be absolute about it. But then this guy is despite he was just about to take an initiation, it's like really going far when it came to, practically all of them. And so it was like, it was really like you're watching the initiation ceremony, and it was quite a show.
You watched that live?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. No. Sorry, it was streamed live. I didn't watch it live. I watched it later, double speed. But yeah, something like that. That he was trying, but that he gave like a little bit, like that's the other thing. He said, now it's 16 rounds. 16 rounds is the standard. That's the ideal. And he's like, yeah, it's the ideal, but I mean, you should be able to, make it generally. Yeah, generally, And like, let's say sometimes, maybe work, maybe there's a social thing, and it's not going to fit into the schedule. And so maybe I'll try to catch up the next day, and if not, maybe, and he's like, yeah, but try to do it in the first place. And then, of course, try to catch up. He's like, yeah, but if you don't, he's like, but you should be able to catch up. He's like, yeah, but sometimes it may not work. And, but then not only that, and then he went further. He said, and like, let's say I know that tomorrow I got a lot of stuff lined up. So maybe
this is all an initiation ceremony.
Yeah, this is all the initiation. Then let's say I know tomorrow I got a lot of stuff lined up. And so maybe I'll chant a few extra rounds today to kind of compensate for maybe not chanting so much tomorrow. And the Guru's like, well, now that part, I wouldn't sign off on you like premeditatively not chanting your 16 rounds. Like, I'm planning to not chant them tomorrow. I'll chant a few extra today. He said, yeah, that I think you should. So there's, anyway. So, but it was a beautiful example of how when you try to be nuanced, people really make a mess. And so it helped, because
I'm going to be busy tomorrow. So
was that initiating guru actually initiated himself?
Yeah. So he initiated.
I'm going to be busy, so I'm just going to chant some extra ones today.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to be busy all this week. I'm going to chant 64 or however many and take care of the week.
I actually saw it as Krishna's beautiful arrangement that I got to see it, because for me, it was something within me where I would feel, I'd get kind of frustrated with people, or even kind of, I'd hear things and I feel like, this is so imprecise,
Yeah.
But then I would see what happens when you actually are super precise, it really, it has its own problems. So at least made me a little more patient or kind of understanding of precise, absolute language with these things.
And I think, Srila Prabhupada understood people to be like that, thinking kind of black and white in categories, and therefore he would use that terminology, understanding that this is what people need. That you can't give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So, that's it. Although you have examples of Srila Prabhupada himself, doing things that were nuanced and different, and things like that. For preaching purposes, for example. I'll tell you one that's not really well known. I never hear anybody repeat it, which is probably because of this reason. But they attended this program, and there's very important members there who made Srila Prabhupada dinner, and all the disciples. So everybody's there, and they're all taking prasadam. And then one devotee, Malati, she looks over to Prabhupada, and she goes, and they're like taking the prasadam, and she goes, Prabhupada, there's onions in the prasadam. And then he looks at her and goes, no, there's not. And then he keeps on taking it, and she goes, Prabhupada, there's onions in the prasadam. And he goes, no, there's not. And then he just keeps on having it. But this was Prabhupada's calculation that better I take this than offend this host. I embarrass her, I offend her, she feels bad, and then she may not take to Krishna consciousness exactly so easily. Better I just take that. So that was nuanced example. That we avoid that. I mean, Prabhupada avoided that. He didn't like it. He avoided it. He didn't like it, but he did that for preaching purposes. But yeah, I can imagine we don't say such things regularly because people think, all right, Prabhupada did for preaching purposes, open up the doors, I always wanted onions and garlic and bring out the wine and whatever. It's for preaching. What was it?
That's what led Tony to say that burger thing. That was the thing that led
Tony?
Remember we had that program?
When?
At the farm, like 6 years ago.
Oh, I don't know if I'm remembering this.
So great example to Balaram's point is that when that example was given at one home gathering,
I see.
in response
Probably
to it,
Damodar gave it.
Yeah, one devotee responded. He said, that makes sense to me. That's why I love our Prabhupada. He's so practical, and that's what I'm like. That's why I'm like that. See, like when it comes to spreading Krishna consciousness, like I may go meet up with an old friend, go to a bar, have a beer, have a burger, and we'll tell him about Krishna consciousness because that's what it takes to connect with people, It's like, whoa, that was his response, It was amazing, like immediate example of how it gets people into trouble.
Or like I was telling last night, speaking with some devotees, I was saying how there is an example where Prabhupada said once to a person who's attached to wine, and it was Prabhupada's mercifulness on this person. He just said, "Oh, you drunkard, useless," But he said, "Oh, when you drink this wine, you could say this is Krishna," but of course that's for that person. It's not. Oh, well, this is what Prabhupada said, and then it's going to spin off into some strange things. So, but yeah, if you use those things, sometimes, all right, great, there you go. Did they drink the molten metal too? Oh, okay. Shankaracharya? Okay. Don't imitate. Well, at least we know with Lord Shiva, he drinks an ocean of poison. So people think, oh, Lord Shiva, there's some case where he smokes ganja, so I could also smoke ganja. So they say, okay, but can you drink that ocean of poison? I said, no, I can't drink. Okay, well. All right. Jai. Kantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai.